Welcome back to another episode of Socratic Cinema. My name is Charlie Heatherly.
I'm Hallie Phillips.
I'm James Delicio.
And I'm Casey Clark.
And welcome to the very first episode of Spooky Season.
Yeah. Ooh.
We're filming this video on October 1st, which means it's the beginning of the month of scares, and for it we've decided to create a thematic playlist of new podcasts that are going to be coming out. They're going to be about scary movies, Halloween-themed movies, just generally unnerving films that we think are very interesting and that we want to talk about, which includes Joker, so stay tuned for that, because we are definitely going to do that.
It's in the works.
It's in the work. Well, once the movie comes out, it will be in the works, but you're right.
Right, yeah. Unless...
No, we actually got a preview screening.
Yeah,
we're big money. No, I wish.
Yeah, so to kick off our spooky season, today we watched The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan. A great classic movie. I think it's amazing. I love it. We're gonna say right now, if you somehow haven't seen The Sixth Sense yet, there's gonna be heavy spoilers. I think everyone on planet Earth knows the twist, but just somehow if you don't,
Wait, what's the twist?
let's give it a little 3 seconds for spoilers. We're gonna 1, 2, 3. All right, so The Sixth Sense is about a ex-child psychologist named
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, but his name is
William Crow.
Is
Willie-
it really William Crow?
I think it might be William Crow.
Dr. Crow.
Dr. Crow.
And his encounters with his newest clientele, a young boy named Cole. I almost said Cole Sprouse. With a young boy named Cole something or other.
We're so professional.
Who
Guys, we
is
got this down.
suffering from visions of dead people. He says that he sees ghosts and they haunt him, and Dr. Crow and Cole kind of work through it. And eventually we learn that these are actual real dead people that Cole's seeing. It's not just visions. And Cole sort of becomes this like kind of medium who helps ghosts pass on to the afterlife. Like he starts helping them, right? Instead of being afraid of them. And at the very end of the movie we learn that Dr. Crow has been dead the whole time, and it was so mind-blowing. I know this was my second time watching it, but the first time watching The Sixth Sense, I had no idea about the twist, so I was completely caught off guard, and it was incredible. So I just wanted to ask, have any of you guys, like, did you all know the twist, or did any of you get to experience it, like?
I got to experience it raw. Like, my sister just had this movie playing, like, midnight in our room. She fell asleep, and I was just focused on this, and just the twist got me. I had to shake her awake. I was like, Brooklyn, what the heck? Did you just see this? The guy's dead the whole time. Like, it was just so artfully created in such a way that, like, I feel like I didn't see it at all coming. It was beautiful.
And then at least for Casey and I, we both had never seen the movie before, but we knew the twist. So going into it, that's going to greatly skew our views of how well the twist is set up. But at least from my view, I thought the movie was wonderful watching through it, knowing what the twist was. It's very skillfully put in there. It's subtle, but God, it hits hard. And the emotional beats, like first time viewing, knowing the twist, still hit just as hard as they would have if I didn't.
Right, yeah. I think that's a really good point you made, that like even if you know the twist, it's still such a good movie either way. What about you, Casey?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. It was very visceral, if you will. Like, I know, right? Look at me. Yeah, it was just a beautiful movie. The shots and how it focused on certain things and how it skewed like perspective to make you see what you wanted to see versus what was actually happening. I found that really interesting. It's just overall I liked the characters except for Cole. Cole was a little bit annoying.
Oh man, what?
Until
In the beginning,
where he's just like, I have daddy issues, bleh. And then you're like, oh, but you're seeing dead people, so that like ties into it, you know. And as you said, like, you get that dysfunctional family with the single mom working multiple jobs, and then the son that's struggling and he just like doesn't have any friends.
I know.
And it's just like heartbreaking. But
yeah,
and just to see all these like terrible stuff happening to him and how he just flips it and makes it into something better is just I really liked it.
I'm a sucker for the dysfunctional family trying to keep it together trope. It pulls on my heartstrings every time. This was one of the few movies that gets me close to crying. I remember I was watching it with my little brother on and I started tearing up. It was a little it's a very emotional movie, and it does it very well, and it really makes you feel very strong emotions for the characters because they're so real, honestly. Like it's
for sure.
It's such a it doesn't shy away from the fact that like this is a really strained mother-son relationship. All the characters are kind of dysfunctional. Dr. Crow kind of in a struggling marriage. He thinks he's in a struggling marriage where his wife isn't talking to him, but she's not talking to him because he's dead and not there.
Whoa.
But like all these characters have some sort of ghost that haunts them, whether it's a literal ghost or an emotional one. But it's just such a beautiful movie, and the characters make you feel so strongly.
I mean, honestly, one of the best characters in the movie that I think goes underemphasized, I mean, besides Bruce Willis's fantastic acting, has to be the mother. I'm not sure what the actress's name is there, but she conveys a love that's been sort of broken and tested over and over again, but still holds strong. I know that's weird, broken, but holds strong. It shows the paradox of her character, though. It's a very tough situation, as you said, that she's found herself in. But she manages to still show her love to her child, who's so deeply troubled in all these situations, and you really feel her maternal plight whenever, like, I was on the verge of jumping out of my bed. I was watching this in my room. I was on the verge of jumping out of my bed when the dude got shoved into the cupboard, the little child, and she was banging on the door. Like, the acting there was phenomenal, and it shows how even though sometimes she might get annoyed, like at the dinner table scene when she's like, "You took the bumblebee pendant, didn't you?" That she loves this kid, like, through and through. And personally, that was my favorite character in the entire movie. But I'm wondering if you guys had any different ideas on that.
Yeah, that's really great. She was amazing. Again, huge kudos to the actress, and actor of Cole. They had an amazing chemistry. I just that got me good. I love that sort of thing. As I stated already.
The thing with M. Night Shyamalan is, I feel like he's gone down in quality over the years from his movies. But something that really shocked me about this movie, watching it, having seen most of his other films before this, is the restraint in the camera that he showed a lot of the times.
Yeah.
That's what made the scene in the car where it's the kid and the mother, and they're talking about how the grandmother deeply loved the mother the entire time. That's what made the scene in the car so good to me, because it was just very subtle camera movements, very basic language, and it took away the frills of the situation that would have been added if he used some fancy technique or something like that.
Right, it was just kind of reverse shot for most of it.
Yeah, no, it was
know.
natural, and it was emotional and raw. It was really, really, really entertaining to watch.
I think I agree with you that was the strongest scene in the movie for sure. I didn't really spend a ton of time thinking about the cinematography and all that because that's not really my forte as much. But I guess, were there anything... I know you made some interesting points, and I'm sure that you've got some good stuff to say, Hallie. You were talking about camera movements and things like what Charlie was pointing out. I just sort of want to see if there's anywhere deeper we can dive with that, maybe? The whole cinematography of the movie? Anything interesting to add there? That's kind of... I don't know.
Any points?
No, that's
No?
not my
Because I know you... maybe I was...
No, mine's just on nuances.
Oh, yeah, I think I might have been...
I mean, because that was the only
Juxtaposition.
camera movement that I really noticed too much was how tame that was. I mean, because if you watch Unbreakable, which is one of M. Night's other movies, one of the first shots is like this really complicated and awesome shot where it's like he's shooting someone through these seats, and it's two people talking. It's Bruce Willis and this little girl, and the seats in between them. And he uses the camera and he pans to Bruce Willis and then over the seat to the girl. And it's this very, like, you know, highfalutin, like, artsy sort of deal that's got going on. But he was so restrained in this movie that I felt like he let his writing take the lead, which is what he should do, because he's a fantastic writer. Although there were some moments, like right before the I See Dead People twist, where the kid's talking about, you need a twist in your story. where I wanted to slap M. Night across the face because I was like, that's the most on the nose thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. And I guess thinking about camera movements, I think him being so restrained and so subtle honestly kind of helped build up the twist, because he used the camera in a way that really painted Dr. Crow as like an outsider and someone who's not quite there, literally, because, I mean, well, he's not there. But, like, I remember what stuck out to me most is in the scene after Cole's mom gets him out of the cupboard, the mean kids lock him in. They're at the hospital, and the doctor is talking to Cole's mom, and all we can see from the camera is the doctor and Cole's mom, and they're talking back and forth. And then out of nowhere, the camera cuts to Bruce Willis in the hospital there, and he's like, oh man, you know. And it's like, we had no idea that he was there. Like, we never were told that. He's always just kind of there, thrown in to scenes. And it sort of adds to the effect that, like, he's a ghost that's haunting Cole. Like, he's not actually there. No one else can see him. Which I thought was really wild. 'Cause when I watched it for this podcast, it was my second time through the movie. So I was mainly focused on picking up all sorts of details and things about, like, well, how were they able to pull off the emotions that I felt the first time through, I guess. And that was one thing I noticed is Dr. Crow's kind of just injected in there with no sort of like establishing shot or anything. They just throw him in, and you just like, I guess he's there.
That's interesting because you're entirely right. Dr. Crow is thrown into a lot of shots and a lot of scenes, and you sort of just accept that he's there. But one where the camera gives him a lot of presence is when he is playing the mind reading game with Cole.
Oh yeah.
And what Cole is doing, or the whole point of the game is that he's trying to read Cole's mind, and every time he gets it right, Cole takes a step forward towards the chair, and once he gets to the chair, then the therapy session starts.
Right.
But every time he gets it wrong, he steps back. And every time he stepped back, the camera pulled out to a point that made you so uncomfortable, and like it really made you feel for the hardship that the doctor's trying to go through in helping Cole. Because this is such a distant child.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
And he not only isolates himself, but he isolates people that are trying to help him.
Right.
Throughout the entire movie. And I just thought that it's an interesting counter to what you saw. Because there most certainly is two sides of the coin in when Bruce Willis is being filmed in the movie. Either there's emphasis put on him in a scene, or he's sort of just there, and you accept that he's there. And I guess that sort of goes into the whole idea of he's a ghost. So to some people, he's much closer to them. And at other points, you don't really need to explain how he got in the hospital or things like that, right?
Right. Yeah. I definitely. I think Cole's mom might be my favorite character in the movie, but I definitely think that the most clever character is obviously by far Dr. Crow, because so much work pulls into pulling off a stunt like that. The biggest thing to me was that all of his wife's dialogue to him, quote unquote, is not actually spoken to him, right? It just sounds like it could be interpreted that way. She says, happy anniversary, things like that. That it sounds like she could be talking to him, but she's not. And to write dialogue with such a double meaning has got to be such a challenge. And I just have so much respect for being able to pull off that kind of writing to M. Night Shyamalan. That was one of the biggest things I appreciated the second time through, were the interactions with his wife.
And Hallie, as a screenwriter, were there any specific things that you noticed that M. Night did really, really well, or things that he sort of lacked on when it came to the script?
There was definitely a lot that he did really, really well. I mean, in screenwriting, there's this kind of cool rule that where you're writing a scene, you should write it to where it could be its own short film and kind of act on its own. And you see this very well, like, explicitly in shows like Breaking Bad and stuff like that, where you can just take a scene, and if you just pulled it out of where it is without the exposition or wherever it is, it's like pulling out its own short film. And one of the things I noticed in this was that even though we have all this exposition to what's happening with the ghosts and with Cole and all the backstory behind it, if we pull out each scene, like the scene at the anniversary or Cole at the birthday party, and like you just put it all together, it also makes sense. And I just find that fascinating, because as a screenwriter, that's one of the hardest things for me to do, is how do I craft the scene well enough to where I can have it speak for itself. And I think that's really, really powerful, because it spoke for itself in a way where exactly they didn't need the camera motions. And I think I'm actually going to argue with you, James, for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna argue
Socratic
with you.
Smackdown.
Like,
Part
I
two.
don't think
all
that
right.
he restricted his cinematography. I think it was actually more artistic that he kept it neutral because he let that seep in through. He let the artistry seep through. Because when you camera movements aren't about movement and artists. Let me
Wait,
get
okay,
your
yeah,
turn.
no,
Let me
yeah,
get
go
your
ahead,
turn.
go ahead.
You were saying that he restrained himself with his camera artisticness because he kept it very steady throughout
Right.
the whole movie.
Yes.
But what is your definition of artistry in that sense?
I got not so much artistic, like he didn't, like Charlie was saying, he didn't use a lot of superfluous camera movements or angles. He kept it very shot, reverse shot, very cut and dry, which it can be artistic. I think I might have misspoken when I said that. I didn't mean for it to be taken. I guess I meant that it was a very bare bones kind of cinematography, but I think that served the movie well. But I see your point too, that it's like a kind of artistry in its own right, or I might be I think I'm misinterpreting you a little bit. The floor is yours. What?
What are you confused about?
Damn, that was a smackdown right there.
I guess I just mean, like, I don't think we're actually disagreeing on anything here. I think we both think
You've argued past each other.
yeah. So what did you guys think about this movie? Was definitely, I think, separated into acts, very clear acts.
For sure.
A lot of times in movies, I remember when I was first getting into this whole like world, I was very confused. Like, well, what do you mean Act 2 of the? I didn't see an intermission. Like, what? But I think this movie definitely had acts. You could argue that Act 1 is up through, whatever the I see dead people reveal, and Act 2 is the whole, the rising action, pretty much.
Right, you got your plot points, you've got all the...
Yeah, and then I think that the third act was very interesting because it was kind of completely separate from the rest of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
we have the whole, like, hour and 15, hour and 20 of Cole and the doctor working close together, trying to figure out what's wrong with Cole. Cole's being haunted by this ghost. And then in the third act, we get, like, almost a little fun side adventure. Cole and Dr. Crow...
I would call it fun, but
Well,
sure,
it's not
yeah.
fun. Cole and Dr. Crow track down the family of this girl that her ghost visited Cole. They track down the family and try and set her at ease and bring to light all the dark truths about the family, right? And they sort of play like there's no good, I can't think of a good analogy or reference, but
Scooby-Doo.
yeah, they kind of play Scooby-Doo. Like, let's unearth all this stuff and help this ghost. And then the movie kind of ends, like, soon after that with some resolution. But it's like, they feel kind of disjointed to me a little bit. It was definitely, I remember when I watched it, a little awkward to me. Like,
That's fair.
I guess we're in like ghost hunter mode now instead of like the whole, because they had this really simmering psychologist child like relationship thing going, and then it was just like ghost hunter time.
Look who's being critical of
Sorry.
movies
So
now.
wait,
I'm
let-
so
No, I don't-
proud.
Yeah, it was just definitely felt like there was a very clear separation there. I loved the movie, right? It didn't take away from that, but I just wanted to get your guys' like, did you find that jarring? How did you feel about that whole scene? I think it was a really great scene.
I really liked it, although it brought a question to me that I think is sort of interesting and could be at the heart of the film. It's, what is the benefit of helping someone if it hurts another person? And I know that might sound weird just hearing it, but hear me out. When the kid, I keep forgetting his name, Cole. When Cole delivers the videotape to the father at the funeral, or at the wake, I'm not sure the correct terminology there, but when he delivers the videotape and the video is played, the father then realizes that the mother's been poisoning their daughter the entire time, right, and making her sick. So although Cole did help out that ghost, or help her family find out the truth of the whole situation, was it worth it to cause so much strife after her death?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Ooh,
I guess so, because I mean, I guess in the movie's eyes it is, because it sort of implies that Cole is the bringer of justice, right? He's bringing to light the ugly truths, and the movie seems to make it say that for better or for worse, not for better or for worse, for better, that's the right thing to do. because that's what lets the ghost move on, and that's ultimately how justice is going to be served for the family, right? If they let the wife, if they never found out that truth, the wife, it's implied in the movie, there's like a passing remark that, oh, her sister's falling ill too, that the mother is also, the cycle would continue, and she's poisoning the younger daughter now. And it's kind of like Cole is bringing it to a halt, at least in my point of view. But I see what you're saying, and that's a really interesting question. And another example I think would be when Dr. Crow sort of states that, like, I have to stop being your psychologist. I need to work with my own family, my own wife, our failing like marriage. Like, it's not worth it to help you because I'm suffering as a result. Sort of the same theme that you were talking about. I think that's definitely a prevalent theme in the movie, though, now that we're pointing out examples like this. It's a really fruitful point.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm so touched.
I'm that's how you should feel.
That's how I should. Well, yeah, and then Bruce Willis's character I never use the character names. I'm sorry. Bruce Willis's character throughout the entire movie, including the end, is hurt by Cole in some way. I mean, he believes that first Cole is taking him away from his family, and that's why he's distant with his wife. And then at the very end, Cole is sort of the one that ends the blissful ignorance of the whole situation, where at least he still has his wife, and now he's realized that he's dead. He's been dead. He can't see her anymore, right? And,
right.
And although he has his final goodbye, he at least was living with her, right?
Dang.
So there's a moral gray area that I think the movie's dealing with, and I'm not sure if it goes entirely one way or the other.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't think about that. Yeah, no, Cole kind of is the source of a lot of the Doctor's pain, and I guess they kind of foreshadow that in the beginning, where Dr. Crow's wife is like, you put everything second for your career, right? And you're finally being recognized because of it. And I like that whole vicious cycle that he goes through. He failed, I believe the kid's name was Vincent in the beginning. The movie opens with a scene of that was one of the...
That was real bad.
The movie opens with a scene of this grown ex-patient of the Doctor, his name is Vincent, breaks into Dr. Crow's house and shoots him. And the way the movie goes, we're led to believe that he survived, and then the movie happens. But that he died right then and there. Which... It's almost... It's like hiding the twist in plain sight. Like, you watch him get shot. I don't know how more people don't... I mean, I didn't pick up on it, but it's just like... You'd think that more people would.
Yeah, but... No, I'm very curious as to both your point of view and Hallie's point of view on this. How obvious was it the first time through? Like, was it really, really well hidden? Or were you getting inklings of the idea that he's possibly dead before all this happened?
The first time watching it was so long ago. I think it caught me by surprise completely, but if it didn't, and I did have inklings, it didn't make it any less impactful. I was still, it floored me, for sure.
I'll be honest, the first time watching this, I watched it halfway through the movie. So I didn't get that whole exposition. But when I watched it the second time through, my sister was like, oh yeah, that's totally obvious. He got shot in the beginning. Like, I knew that was coming. And so when I watched the second time through, I tried to figure out what points made that so obvious to her. But I think it was just, the reason why it didn't hit me as much the second time was that I was looking for those moments. And I think that's why when we search for those moments and we have, like, that desire to find it almost, like, we know what's going to happen, like you, Casey and Charlie, it kind of takes away the impact of it all.
Definitely, right. Because, like, I don't think Mr. Shyamalan was intending his audience to, the first time watching it, pick apart and be searching for what the twist could be,
But
right?
That's the effect that
you and Casey
have.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely the effect that a lot of people are going to have now. But it's definitely, like, for people like us who saw it the first time through, who didn't have the mindset of searching for it, I think that's why it was so... effective, because you can't search for what you don't know is coming.
Exactly.
They set clear rules for set very good rules, and they follow it. He was shot to death, and he has a blood stain on his shirt and a bullet hole. So for the entirety of the movie, we never see the Doctor with his jacket off until the very end.
Do we really?
We always see him with his jacket on.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, throughout the entire movie, no character ever directly addresses him. Ever. Even when it looks like he's sitting having a conversation with Cole's mom, she's just staring off into space. Like, she's not talking to him at all. Which is, I guess, kind of like, why are you just sitting there waiting for your son to come home? But, like, I'm not judging. Things like that. Or in the weird scenes like the hospital where he's just there. No one acknowledges him. He's just there. He's a ghost. It's just, they hide it so well. And like we were saying with the dialogue, any lines that are spoken to him, quote unquote, aren't actually, it's a double interpretation. Gosh, it's just such a smart twist. They just do it so well.
And, have any of you guys, have any of you guys seen his other movies? Like, any of the other movies?
Slumdog Millionaire. But that's a newer one.
Did he really do
Avatar's last.
Really, guys?
I'm pretty sure he did I'm doing
Okay,
mine.
he's
We've got
looking
a
up.
research team
Okay,
on it right now.
Well, in the meantime, I would like to compare this to Unbreakable one more time for a second, because I think that in this movie, the twist hits much harder than it did in Unbreakable, and it's for one reason. In Unbreakable, at least from what I can remember, the twist is that he's actually a superhero and has been a superhero this entire time. He has super strength and has had it his entire life, and that's why he survived this horrendous train wreck, which everyone else died in. So the main character in that movie was the only survivor. And I like the twist a lot more in this movie because it's less open about it. And James is right. There's really clear rules that are set in place. Like, all of the stuff with the ghosts is explained fairly well and to a point that is satisfactory. I don't really have that many questions about it or need any more answers to the entire situation. All of the scenes looking back knowing the twist are done really, really well and really obvious that no one is talking to him. Like, it's super, super duper clear that he's just talking into space, right? Especially during that restaurant scene.
Yeah.
Where the lady just takes the check. But something that M. Night did really, really well is that he used his character's flaws to explain why no one was talking to him. Right? He has a distant relationship with his wife, so that's why that's why she's not talking to him. That's why at the restaurant they're so distant, right? And there's a very weak amount of conversation. So he sets up his characters in a way that service the plot, which is something that's really, really smart. And he obviously had the twist in mind and then wrote the story around it to fit it. And I'm wondering if that's the same process he has for other movies or if he's changed it slightly on the worse ones.
So I also found out,
Oh, snap.
I don't know how I got it in my brain that he was part of the crew for Slumdog Millionaire. He wasn't. It was a Danny Boyle movie. So I guess not.
Dang, credibility.
I don't know where
Down.
my ethos. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Slumdog Millionaire is a great movie, though. Love to talk about it on the show. It won an Academy Award.
Did it really?
It's a great movie.
Did this movie win an Academy Award? The one we're talking about?
It had to.
Sixth Sense?
Spirited Away won an Academy Award.
Oh, snap.
We only talk about Academy Award-winning films.
Into the Spider-Verse, Academy Award-winning film.
Of course.
We don't forget about Megamind. We just
Did that win Best Animated Feature?
Didn't deserve it if it did.
Oh, did it really?
I think it might have lost
No,
to.
it
I think
definitely lost.
It lost to some Disney movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know how Prince of Egypt didn't win Best Animated Feature.
But none of this is Sixth Sense.
None of this is this. My Sixth Sense is finding which movies should have won
Should we
Academy
watch
Awards. But go ahead.
Well, so is there anything else that we want to talk about or address specifically for right now? Because we're running out of time. We're running on some batteries. Go quick.
Oh, yikes. Okay, 2 things. Quick things. So going back to the acts, how they seem choppy. I think that the acts we're following... Sorry, I'm talking really fast. We're following more of Cole's evolution over... like Dr. Crow's evolution, which is why it kind of ends once Cole reaches his peak of being like a medium, and then he's like, all right, Crow, go do your thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of just like falls off, because it completely revolves around what's Cole doing, how is this affecting Cole, until it gets to the point where it's like, hi, you're dead. Say psych right now.
Say psych right now.
I definitely like, because it's a real thing with therapist-patient relationships, that you don't stay with a patient, or you don't stay with your therapist longer than you need to. That's not healthy to develop that kind of dependence. So it's kind of smart that the movie reflected that in the same way, where they both knew, like, okay, we've said everything we needed to say. It's time for us to move on. And it was actually a really healthy reflection of what therapist-patient relationships probably should look like, right? You're there to overcome a problem, and and after that, you guys don't need each other anymore, and you go your separate ways in a healthy parting. And the movie definitely did that very well. I just wanted to point out that little, real. I guess it sort of goes to show that M. Night like really did think it. Like it's a drama, right? But he's not. It's still very based in reality, and like this is how things are actually done, which I thought was interesting. Dr. Crow's a really good psychologist. He knows his stuff.
Knows his stuff. Very good.
I also felt that who was in what role kind of switched by the end of the movie, because throughout the movie, Crow's giving Cole all of this. Wow, that's a lot of C's. Crow is giving Cole like this advice. He's trying to help him, but by the end of the movie, it's kind of reversed. As soon as like everything climaxes with his wife, like he officially thinks she's having an affair, and then his life is falling apart, and then Cole's like, no, maybe you need to do this. Yeah. Like, you need to be the one that's changing. You're spending too much time trying to change other people and chasing things that you can't get. You need to go and like change that. And that kind of leads into my last point, which is like perspective, which is the entire perspective of the movie. Like, just talking about Crow's perspective throughout, he kind of has a very like tunnel vision. Everything's like a mood disorder, like schizophrenia. Like, that's how badly he had failed Vincent, because he completely like he just categorized him, like was very demeaning to his situation. He's like, no, it's because you're like crazy. And he didn't really help him because he couldn't get past his own aspirations. He's like, I'm a doctor and this is what a doctor would tell you. And that, and as you see with the like the climax of him and Vincent's relationship, where Vincent shoots him, like, and he goes on this giant, like, I think it counts as a monologue since it was very like limited responses, and it was very at the beginning when he's about to shoot him.
Vincent's monologue.
Yeah, Vincent's monologue.
Yeah.
That everything that he did, that Crow did for Vincent, he did to make like Crow feel better, that could give Crow closure, but really it just hurt Vincent more. And so the entire movie, like, Crow's just he's just running on this idea that if I don't help Cole, it's going to be another Vincent situation. He doesn't truly want to help Cole. He just wants to like fill that void of like that whole like missing thing. He's like, I failed and I'm not going to fail you. And that's why Cole says it to him when he's about to like leave him. He's like, don't fail me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Gosh, I love how cyclical the vicious cycle that Dr. Crow is stuck in. For some reason, I just got a really scary feeling that his name's not Dr. Crow, and we've been saying it wrong the whole episode. You guys know who we're talking about.
Oh god.
I don't care.
Oh, no, it is. It was on the plaque with the nice frame.
Yes, that must have cost hundreds of dollars.
Oh dear lord.
Is it Dr. Crow? Please tell me it's Dr. Crow.
Freaking
out over here.
Dr. Crow, 6 cents.
Please.
Oh!
Was it William too?
Malcolm.
Malcolm. God damn it.
How did we forget Malcolm?
What a name.
Why
did I think
I
it
just
was
nearly had a
William?
heart attack. Sorry.
Could you
wow.
imagine? Oh.
Okay.
That would be a us thing to do, but
like how I got dragged in the comment section of my video essay for calling the Kingpin Wilson Frisk instead of Wilson Fisk. Every
Stop and frisk.
Every fifth comment is like, is no one else gonna mention that this guy said Frisk?
you just made fun of like 2,000
I'm
or
sorry.
3,000.
Thank you. I love
all of our subs are going down. James, stop talking.
I love every single one of you.
No, he does.
I know it's William Fisk. Wilson.
William
Whoa!
All right. Anyway.
I love
Anyway.
you. Thank you all for watching
Oh
my
my
video
gosh.
essay. It made me really happy. Wilson Fisk is his name. Thank you. I know now.
All right.
That is the
Yeah.
perfect way to end this episode
Yeah.
off, I believe.
Is there any sort of closing thing we want to do?
No, I don't think we have the battery to do it if we were going to.
I think the battery
It
died
died
a while
It died?
ago.
Died.
Yeah, the dream is
It
over
went a
there.
whoop, whoop, and
Yeah.
then
And then
both looked at
we looked at each other. We're just like,
How would you guys? What's your guys' recommendation? How would you recommend this movie to your friends? We'll start down
Like
the
a
line. Like a
rating?
rating. What would you like? What's your final verdict on the movie?
Ooh.
I guess let's wrap things off. Put a nice little bow on it. Casey, why don't you start off?
I'll start off. All right. So I would say if you are a fan of it, then because it's you're putting children in dangerous, horror-filled situations, then feel free to watch it. Like if you like twists, if you like being on the edge of your seat, like I know that I personally I didn't know about how the ghosts were going to be portrayed. So then you see like the 70s kid who's like, I can show you where my dad keeps his gun, and then his head's blown out, and I'm like,
yeah.
that's what we're doing now. So that's gonna be really loud. I'm so sorry, whoever's editing this. But yeah,
good.
if you're into scares, it solid 9.5 out of 10 for me.
10. Yeah, I was gonna go on a 5-star rating scale. It definitely gets.
oh.
I'm.
Yikes.
Let's all do a different one. Mine's
Okay.
out of 7. It's definitely getting a strong 4.5 stars for sure. It's such a good movie. If you love emotion and feeling things and family, and you want to cry or you want to almost cry, I think The Sixth Sense is the movie for you. And yeah, solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. I give it a strong. That's 9. 9. I give it a 9.
Yeah, I would give this a solid 7.5 broken families out of 8, but I think that it was a very, very, very good movie. I've killed Casey. It's over.
every podcast we kill Casey, guys.
It's like South Park. What's the Kenny?
Kenny? Yeah,
Yeah.
we killed Casey.
No.
No, but I absolutely love this movie. It is such a well done film in every single regard. And it's restrained and it knows what it's trying to say. And I know that that sounds very highfalutin and weird. I think I already used that word, but it's fine.
I don't know what that
You know,
word means.
it's a
Switch it
fancy
up,
word,
Charles.
but it's just such a good movie, and it's hard to say why it's good. And I always say this in every single podcast, and I'm going to keep saying it till the end of time, because it's the one true thing about movies. If they make you feel something, then they're good. This movie made me feel something. It made me feel sad and contemplative, and it just made me question my life and the relationships I have and experiences that I've gone through and everything. It does such a good job at understanding its core emotions and then exploiting them. And by far, one of my favorite movies that I've seen. Definitely 7.5 broken marriages out of 8.
I love it.
Oh gosh. Okay, what am I going out of? 8, 9?
That's my
Three?
choice.
I'm gonna
3. I say 3.
give it a 3. That's narrow. Okay, I'm gonna give this a solid 2.5 out of 3.
Well, if we
Okay,
multiply that out.
2.7.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad.
A 2.9.
A 2.9 out of 3. Very good.
And because, okay, my recommendation, you have to have a knack for the supernatural if you're going to watch this movie, because it's based around a lot of those themes. And for someone who's really interested in all of that, and someone who believes in ghosts, unlike someone on this podcast,
They're fake. What? Sorry.
that whole idea and theme is still very interesting. But I feel like you do have to have some sort of lenience towards it, which I think. But actually, Charlie, you enjoyed this movie, so...
Yeah, because ghosts aren't real and the story wasn't real, so it made sense together as a film.
That's
We've been
well,
Socratic cinema.
happy
Tober.
spooky cinema.
Spooky cinema.
Socratic spooky.
Find us on our
Socratic
other
spooks.
platforms. We are on Spotify and Apple and Anchor and where all good podcasts are found. Go follow our Instagram at Socratic_cinema.
Yes.
We also have a Twitter, but we will never post on it ever.
We probably should start posting on
Yeah, that's a not me thing to do. You guys can handle that. I don't know how
it.
Twitter works.
Do any of us? I don't have a Twitter.
Anyway,
Let's just have this discussion on the podcast.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Should we start using Twitter, other social
snap.
medias? Also, yeah, please check us out on our other platforms. I know YouTube's not really the greatest. We love you, YouTube gods. Please have mercy on our channel. But YouTube
Praise
is
thee.
not really the kind of easiest way to listen to podcasts. So we do have other platforms available if you guys want an easier way to hear our lovely voices.
And please tell us what else you want to see.
Yeah. What are we? Should we next time on Socratic Cinema? Probably Joker.
Probably Joker. Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Very excited for that one. We've been Spooky Cinema. Mwahahaha.
We're out.
Bye. Adios.
Adios.